Hello and welcome back. Here is an interesting story for you. Snow glittered across the city like tiny diamonds scattered under the streetlights on Christmas Eve. Families hurried through the festive chill, laughter echoing through the winter air. Warm lights glowed from shop windows, carols floated gently, and everything felt wrapped in holiday magic. Everything except the heart of the man who was just trying to make it through one more shift. Daniel worked silently inside the grand department store, his breath fogging slightly in the cool air of the warehouse section. His hands were numb from carrying boxes, but his heart held onto a single warm thought: Liam. His little boy was waiting at home, believing in Santa, believing in joy, believing in a world far kinder than the one Daniel struggled through. His wife had died years earlier, and life since then had been nothing but endurance. He lived paycheck to paycheck, stretched every coin, and still managed to tuck away a smile for Liam every night. Christmas was never about gifts. It was about proving to his son that they still had hope. Daniel paused by the toy section for a moment longer than he meant to. A beautiful plush bear caught his eye, the kind of toy Liam would hug all night and never let go of. He checked the price. Too high. Far too high. He sighed and placed it back, picking a much smaller toy instead, something cheap, something he could afford. Tonight, the store had a special visitor. The CEO of the retail empire had decided to inspect operations personally. Elena Carter, known in the business world as iron-hearted, brilliant, relentless. She had built companies, crushed competitors, and ruled with precision and power. She didn't believe in weakness. She didn't believe in excuses. Success came from discipline, and she trusted almost no one. Elena walked through the store in a sharp winter coat, heels tapping like a steady metronome of authority. Employees stiffened when they saw her. Managers followed nervously behind, trying to impress. She looked at everything with sharp, calculating eyes. Daniel clocked out and headed for the exit with a small cake and toy linen tucked carefully into his bag. He didn't see anything unusual. He didn't notice the way one jealous co-worker glanced at him. He didn't know someone had slipped something into his backpack. Just as he reached the door, security blocked his path. "Sir, we need to check your bag." Daniel blinked, confused, then nodded. He had nothing to hide. At least, so he believed. But when they opened the bag and pulled out the expensive plush bear he never bought, silence fell like a hammer. His stomach dropped. He stared at it in disbelief. I didn't take that." He stammered. "You can check. I only bought." The manager cut him off coldly. "Mrs. Carter, this is what I was telling you. Some employees steal." Elena stepped forward slowly. Her gaze pierced into him like ice, strong, absolute, final. "Did you take it?" she asked calmly. "No, I swear I didn't." Daniel replied, voice shaking with humiliation. I wanted to buy it, but I didn't have enough. I don't tolerate lies," Elena said sharply. He tried to explain, he tried to plead, but Elena had no space in her world. You for stories like his. She saw him as a problem, a liability, a thief. Fire him. She ordered. The guards escorted him out. His dignity shattered as coworkers watched in silence, fear gluing their lips shut. Snow hit his face harder now. His heart felt heavier than the winter around him. Christmas Eve had turned into the cruelest night of his life. He walked home slowly, cold biting deeper than ever before. He wondered how he would face Liam, how he would smile, how he would pretend life was okay. But when he opened the door, Liam ran into his arms, giggling the way only children can. Daniel forced his lips to curve upward. He gave him the small toy. They ate cake. They laughed. And when Liam finally slept with innocence curled safely around him, Daniel sat in the dim glow of weak Christmas lights, whispering apologies to a sleeping child who didn't yet understand the unfairness of the world. Days turned to months of struggle. Rumors followed him. Thief, doors closed, jobs rejected him. He swallowed shame every day like bitter medicine. He worked odd jobs, barely surviving, but never gave up. He studied, he learned, he grew. Years passed. Pain slowly shaped resilience. Struggle molded brilliance. Daniel built himself back. He found honest work in logistics, then leadership, eventually running his own consulting firm specializing in saving companies that were falling apart. He became respected, trusted, admired, and his son grew into a good young man, proud of the father who refused to break. 12 years later, winter returned with the same gentle snowfall. But now Daniel stood tall, confident, successful. One day, an urgent request came for his services. A huge corporation was collapsing. Strikes, supply failures, lawsuits, chaos. They needed him desperately. When Daniel arrived at the towering glass building, his chest tightened. It was the same company, the same empire. Memories hit like thunder. He entered a conference room, the door opened, and in walked Elena Carter. But she wasn't the untouchable storm she once was. Age and regret had softened her sharp edges. Stress and consequence lived in her tired eyes. When she recognized him, her breath caught. For the first time, Elena didn't stand as a queen on a throne. She stood as a woman facing the ghost of the greatest mistake of her life. The company was dying. Thousands of employees risked losing everything. Christmas season, the company's lifeline, was weeks away and everything was collapsing. Elena swallowed pride she once believed was unbreakable. "We need you," she said, voice trembling despite her attempt to steady it. "Please help us." There it was, the word no one ever imagined Elena Carter would say. Please. Daniel could have walked away. He could have looked her in the eyes and let the empire fall the way she once let him. But behind that company were people like he once was, single parents, dreamers, fighters, families. He agreed, on one condition. Elena must publicly admit what she did. Her jaw tightened at first. Ego resisted, but the company meant lives. Reality crushed pride. She agreed. Daniel worked tirelessly. He listened to employees. You don't fix systems by crushing people. You fix systems by understanding them. He rebuilt trust, negotiated fairly, restored order, brought life back, and Elena kept her word. In front of cameras, employees, shareholders, the world, she confessed. She revealed he had been framed, that she had judged without listening, that she destroyed an innocent man because she valued authority more than humanity. And she apologized, not as a CEO, as a human being. The company recovered, slowly, then powerfully. Employees believed again. Business prospered because leadership finally carried heart instead of just power. Time moved again. Months later, Elena called Daniel not as his boss, not as a leader, just as someone searching for redemption deeper than public apology. They sat in her office. The city stretched in lights beneath them. "When I fired you that night," she said softly, "I wasn't just punishing you. I was proving something to myself, that I was strong, that I couldn't be fooled, that emotions had no place in business. I built empires, Daniel, but I destroyed people on the way." Her voice cracked. "I didn't realize what success cost until I saw the damage behind me." Daniel listened quietly. "I thought winning meant never bending, never doubting myself, never allowing compassion. But you," she breathed slowly, "you rebuilt your life when I ruined it. You came back and saved the very place that broke you. And I don't understand how someone finds that kind of strength." Daniel smiled faintly. "Because revenge doesn't rebuild anything," he said. "But grace does." For the first time in her life, Elena Carter truly understood what leadership meant. Not power, responsibility. Weeks later, fate tested her again. A sudden health crisis hit her. Stress finally demanded its price. One night, she collapsed at her office, and the woman who once controlled everything suddenly had no control at all. Daniel rushed to the hospital the moment he heard. Elena lay weak, machines humming softly, her always confident hands trembling slightly. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "I should," he replied gently. She looked at him with something like peace. "Thank you," she murmured, "not for saving the company, for saving the part of me I buried years ago." Her daughter sat beside her, tears silently flowing, not for a ruthless mogul, but for a mother she finally saw as human. Elena squeezed Daniel's hand. "I built an empire," she whispered faintly. "But you built something stronger, a soul that refuses to hate. Promise me something, lead differently than I did." He nodded. She closed her eyes with peace, the kind she never allowed herself when she ruled without heart. Her memorial was unlike anything corporate halls had seen. Employees spoke not of power, but of transformation, of change, of a woman who tried to make right at the end, of a man who helped her do it. The board turned to Daniel. They didn't want just a CEO, they wanted a leader. He didn't answer immediately. He went home, sat quietly, thought of Liam, thought of the night 12 years ago, thought of the journey from humiliation to healing. When Liam asked quietly, "Are you going to take it?" Daniel finally understood. Leadership meant making sure no one else ever felt what he once did. He accepted. Under Daniel, the company thrived like never before, not just in profit, but in soul. Policies protected workers. Programs supported parents. People mattered. Humanity sat beside strategy at every table. Every Christmas Eve, they honored second chances. Every year, Daniel looked at the snow, remembering the man he once was and the woman who once broke him, then helped him change the world, and he whispered a silent thanks to fate, because sometimes life crushes you not to end you, but to rebuild you into someone strong enough to change everything. Snowy winters returned to the city, carrying peace instead of pain for Daniel and Liam. The company was thriving under Daniel's leadership, not because of ruthless strategy, but because it finally had a heart. People smiled when they came to work, families felt valued, Christmas bonuses returned, programs supported struggling workers, and every hallway carried Elena Carter's quiet legacy of strength transformed into compassion. But life isn't a straight line of peace. It always tests what you claim to stand for. Months after Daniel became CEO, the company faced a new storm. A powerful rival corporation launched a brutal campaign to destroy them, undercutting prices, buying suppliers, spreading lies online. Markets dipped, tension returned, employees panicked, afraid history would repeat itself. The media predicted collapse. Investors demanded aggression. They wanted Daniel to abandon empathy and fight like a machine. Behind closed doors, the boardroom filled with pressure. We need to cut staff. We need to slash benefits. We need to shut down branches. They wanted cold decisions. Daniel listened, calm but steady. He remembered standing on the other side once, powerless, disposable, unheard. He refused to become the monster that once crushed him. "We will not save numbers by destroying people," he said firmly. Some board members doubted him. Some tried to push him aside. Rumors swirled. Anonymous critics called him weak. They accused him of being emotional. Investors wanted someone stronger, someone like the old Elena. Daniel didn't react with rage. He reacted with resolve. He met with employees personally, from warehouse workers to top engineers. He listened just like he promised he always would. He learned that fear was louder than crisis. People needed reassurance more than orders. He began crafting a brilliant but human strategy. Instead of firing workers, he created innovation teams inside the company, inviting even the smallest employees to contribute ideas. New product lines emerged. Smarter logistics systems developed. Younger workers brought fresh creativity. Veterans brought wisdom. The company didn't just fight back, it evolved, and then fate brought another twist from the past. One afternoon, Daniel received a letter addressed in careful handwriting. No corporate seal, No fancy envelope, just honesty. It was from the man who framed him 12 years ago. The letter trembled with remorse. Former employee confessed he had lost everything since then. Life punished him harder than any court ever could. He wrote that when he saw Daniel on television as CEO, instead of bitterness, guilt finally crushed him completely. He asked for a chance, not forgiveness, just the opportunity to say he was sorry face to face. Daniel sat in silence for a long time holding that letter. Memories pierced through him like old winter winds. The night in the snow, Liam asleep, the humiliation, the years of pain. Part of him wanted to tear that letter apart, but another part remembered Elena's last request. Lead differently than I did. Daniel agreed to meet him. At a quiet cafe outside the city, a thin, weary man waited nervously. His hands shook. His eyes avoided Daniel's at first. I ruined your life, the man whispered. You did nothing to deserve it. I was desperate. I was jealous. I thought your kindness made you weak, and when they fired you, I justified it. I told myself it was fate. But every night I remembered your face. Every success you earned later reminded me what I stole. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to tell you. I am sorry. His voice broke. Silence lingered. Daniel took a breath. My son once asked me why bad things happen to good people. He said softly, I told him sometimes. Darkness tries to see if light will break. Mine didn't. The man cried openly now. Daniel didn't shake his hand immediately. He didn't smile. Forgiveness wasn't something to hand like a trophy, but he said something far stronger. I won't destroy you, he said quietly. Life already taught you, learn from it. Live better, never do it again. For the man, that was redemption. For Daniel, it was closure. Meanwhile, back at the company, storms continued to rage. But Daniel's leadership slowly ignited something powerful. Employees weren't afraid anymore. They weren't just defending their jobs. They were fighting for a place that believed in them. Morale transformed into energy. Innovation crushed competition. Customers noticed. Investors who once doubted now proudly claimed they never did. The company didn't just recover, it soared. Months later, on a peaceful winter night, Daniel stood in Elena's old office looking at the city lights. Her framed photo rested beside a plaque on his desk engraved with her final words to him. Never mistake coldness for strength. Lead with heart. Liam walked in quietly. Big CEO moment. He teased. Daniel smiled. Just thinking how far we came. Liam nodded. Mom would be proud. Elena would be proud too. Daniel looked out at the city again. Snow had begun drifting down softly. Gentle, slow, peaceful, not like the snow the night he lost everything. This snow felt like reassurance, like life whispering that pain can be rewritten into power if the heart remains kind. And from that day forward, the company became more than a business. It became a story people told across industries, across countries. A story about a falsely accused single dad who rose, a powerful woman who learned humanity in time to change, and a world that finally understood something simple. True leadership isn't measured in profit charts. It is measured in the lives it refuses to break. And every Christmas Eve, Daniel stood at the window with Liam, watching snowfall with gratitude instead of grief, knowing that fate had written pain into his story, not to bury him, but to prepare him to carry thousands with him when he rose.